Dude, you are getting well. Dudes, welcome. Dudes of all genders, however you identify, welcome here to the Dude Nation podcast. This is Dude, You're Getting Well, and I am your host, Ben Curtis, facilitator, really. I'm thrilled to be part of this conversation. And if you're here, thank you so much. I couldn't be here without you. I'd be talking into a microphone all alone in a closet. But instead, I get to be out in the world with each one of you, interviewing and having conversations with some of my favorite souls, past, present, and future. And thanks to the universe and all the amazing humans in my life, I've had the gift of coming across another extraordinary soul who I feel like I've known forever, but we're getting to know each other newly in this life. Jody Weiss. Jody Weiss is up to a lot of big things in the world. She's a change maker and transformer and a healer, transforming conversations with money, with humanity, with ourselves. And today we're really going to be talking about getting outside the confines of our minds, the very limitations we put on ourselves, and some really practical ways to start to shift that and go from maybe surviving to thriving. So if you're here, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe so you can be the first one to hear about this and help others get the message out, and comment. Let us know what's resonating. And if you like what you're hearing, let me know. And I'm happy to put you in touch with Jody along the way. Without further ado, welcome to the stage, Jody R Weiss.
Hey, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Excuse me, really great to be here. And, I'm passionate about thriving humanity, men and women, learning how to live in a more fluid, wholesome way. So it's great to be here.
Thank you, Jody. It's great to have you here. What had you say yes to being here?
Well, I'm super passionate about men and women in their wholeness, and I think raising boys to be great men is the solution to all of our problems on the planet. I think a healthy, thriving humanity, including the way we speak to each other, men and women, and the way we engage with planet Earth is fundamental. So I love to work with guys who are really committed to their own growth and well-being and how they engage with planet Earth. So.
Wow. Well, thank you. I receive. I don't know if all guys are open, but I receive. One of the most important, thank you for your self-expression, for serving those of us in need. I believe men have been underserved recently in some of those aspects. Like, yes, some of us have been given plenty of privilege, but also there's a lot of missed steps, let's say, in the rites of passage and learning to develop ourselves. And recently someone said to me, what's the main thing men are dealing with? And I say, well, really wanting support, not wanting to be alone, yet also not willing necessarily or able to receive the gifts that are right there for them. So here's to being willing and able and practicing showing up for that, and to know that there's humans and women like you out in the world doing this work is just extraordinary. And I know you don't just serve men, right? Tell us just a little bit about the work you're doing for women in the world. I mean, aside from just being your extraordinary self, but I know you're up to some specific things that I'd love for you to share.
I'm up to some cool things. I'll just frame my background so you guys understand a little bit of my background. In my early career, I was actually a sports agent at IMG. I was the 6th female executive at IMG, and I worked with runners like Jackie Joyner and FloJo and
Johnson. Hold on. I didn't know this about you. This is amazing. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I represented runners, track and field, triathloning, walking aerobics. So I really understand peak performance.
Mm.
and all the business around licensing, book deals, TV deals. But I'm a mystic, I'm a yogi. And from my early age of 17, I ended up in Kashmir to study non-dual Tantra. And non-dual Tantra, which I'll talk to you about, is actually now at the intersection of consciousness, neuroscience, quantum physics, and business. And so I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. When I moved from sports, I launched a consumer brand by the name of Peacekeeper Cosmetics, which gave donations to urgent human rights issues. And we were sourcing from women who lived on $1 or $2 a day. And I fell in love with capital,
Mm.
the way capital moves to help the least among us, but also building that bridge between the land of plenty and people who just by chance of birth don't have our privilege. And then most recently, in the last 10 years, I decided to really dive into the world of capital and work on sort of the feminization of capital and moving the language from profits to a circular kind of an understanding so that all living systems thrive. And that includes our internal living system and our external living system. And that's where non-dual Tantra comes in, because we are actually nature, and capital is energy. And so that's really my passion work right now. I just last year launched Women Funding the World, which is a community of women, angel, venture, private equity, hedge, debt, and philanthropists who come together to really go deeper in the use of the feminization of capital. And later in the evening, guys who allocate capital come, and we really are exploring how to move that under 3% of capital to 10% to women entrepreneurs and investors, because right now there's a bottleneck with very little capital going to women under 3%. And so we have a 10-year strategy to change that.
Wow. Yes. 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 So exciting for that movement. For people like me, whether no matter what gender you are, how can we get involved?
Well, right. So Women Funding the World is a national gathering. Right now we're in New York and San Francisco. We're going to be in Detroit, in Austin, in Miami. And so any of those cities, you can reach out to me and I'm sure you'll leave my email address. And if you're an allocator guy, you can come after 8:30 and really open the doors to capital for women, but also share what you're doing. And we would love, love, love to have you. If you're an entrepreneur or NGO, we also have a smaller number of invitations available at each of our events. We would love to have you. And what's really cool is that we're now going to have a monthly free online call every the first Thursday of every month, where you can jump online with us and talk about how to utilize capital in a way where all living systems thrive. And so I call that regenerative capital, and we would love to have you involved in that.
That's incredible. So I just put the website up. It's very simple. It's womenfundingtheworld.com. So check it out. It's a beautiful site. It's really self-explanatory. When I asked how we get involved, and you said come at 8:30. So I'm hearing that it's an event and it's happening on a specific date. Is this a regular recurring thing? Is this annual? And when is the next one?
Yeah, it's so the normally in New York City, it's about every 4 to 6 weeks. And so you have to keep watching our website to be updated. The next one is May 14th here in New York City. And then after that, we're going to be actually in Paris in partnership with the Climate Capital Forum.
Wow.
And then we'll be in Detroit in June. So we're jumping around the planet, really planting seeds of collaboration. And the idea with this 10-year strategy is to really go behind the scenes with really extraordinary men who may not feel as comfortable investing in diverse women. And what we're going to show them is actually when you invest in a diverse group of entrepreneurs, your alpha, your return is actually higher, because more perceptions come in around the business opportunity and not just one sort of aligned perception. And that diversity of perception actually drives more alpha. But the other reason we want to do it is when you have less than 3% of capital going to women, there's an imbalance in nature. It's just a huge imbalance. Can you imagine what the planet would look like if even 10% of capital was open and freed up for women and diverse women, Black and brown women, to receive that kind of capital? They bring an extraordinary feminized view of the world, a different view, and we think that it will add to the healing of our planet. So,
amen. I mean, it's funny that we have to say, like, we think this. It seems so obvious to me. So it's like, God bless you all for the patience to have to explain this to us over and over and over. And yet, thank you also for all the work you've done to make this so clear. I mean, when you have a number, it's right there. It's like, we're not even asking for 50. I want to point that out. They're not asking for 50. Come on, guys. Like, you're not willing to give up like 10%. In a business, you still have majority ownership. Like, come on, just a little bit.
Dude, come on. Like, that is what we're talking about. So we're going to give men who allocate capital a database of all the Black and brown and diverse GPs. How about a deal flow, all of the best kinds of deal flow in all different categories, so they can look at deal flow from diverse founders and that have great teams. This is not a charitable thing. This is great teams with deep expertise in education that they can invest in. And so we don't want to hear, well, gosh, I don't know how to find those women or those opportunities. So we're going to bring those. And we're also going to talk about conscious and unconscious bias. Because we all have our own types of conscious and unconscious bias, and we want to inspire, we want to showcase. What we're going to do actually is a campaign called I Stand Up for 10%. It's going to be showcasing great men who are already allocating capital in all sorts of diversified ways, and the alpha that they're earning from this. So I Stand Up for 10 is a 10-year campaign where each year allocators will make a commitment to push more of their capital towards 10% allocation to women.
That's extraordinary. Awesome. Well, if you want to be part of this or even curious about it, please go to this website, womenfundingtheworld.com, and share this with someone in your life.
I do also, Ben, want to say that that's our membership for Women Funding the World. The Diversified Capital Coalition is the nonprofit that will be reaching out to men to move this capital. And that's just being formed. We're writing a white paper on it now, and there'll be a website. So look on Women Funding the World, and you'll find a link to the Diversified Capital Coalition. That's a global conversation on this strategy.
Awesome. I'm just making note of that here in the comments, so each of you can look that up as well. Great. So Jody, this is clearly part of your well-being, self-care here, making a difference in the world, standing up for some bit of equality. And also, I want to acknowledge that you're having money move for us, and not being like a victim of capitalism, but actually saying, hey, how can we use this energy to move for us and actually provide more abundance in the world? What are some of the ways, let's going into the wellness conversation here. Aside from this, what are some of the other ways in your life that are things you do to continue flourishing, to have yourself well?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I'm an unusual mixture of business and mysticism. And so, as I mentioned, when I was young, I ended up in Kashmir, and I met the last in the lineage of the great non-dual tantric teacher, Swami Lakshmanju, which is from the tradition of Kashmir Shaivism. And that sounds, woo, what is that? But it's actually a beautiful practice. It's a meditative practice of playing with perception, identity, and the ego. And when we what's the word, deconcretize things around us, like objects and everything, down to a cellular level, we are all actually mostly empty vibrating cells, right, connected to each other. And so my wellness practice and my work in the world, especially around the movement of capital, is the feminization of that. And what I mean by that is when we step out of the intellect, and the mind, intellect, and ego creates past and future. It creates subject object experience. It's naturally used to landing on an object and creating a memory around it. So what does it feel like instead to relax the intellect and just let the arising of experience come up? Like qualia, the arising of experience, it's very sensual, it's very sensory. And so all of the five senses are engaged in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, and not go into history and memory. And so there's a beautiful book called the Vijnana Bhairava, which teaches 112 practices how to sort of exhaust or relax or quiet the intellect, so that this beautiful quality of present experience is in the moment. What would it feel like to walk, for instance, into a boardroom as a trillion cells of vibrating potentiality, not with our agenda, not with our sort of stress of getting things done, but as the arising of experience. And when one does that in this way, intuition is different. Connection with the people in the room is different. One's heart connection to men and women in the room is different. And so this is the kind of work that I do. And I love to bring it into conversations about capital, because when we get out of producing, we become nature itself. We become living systems itself. And we become a circular economy itself. And so that's what I do. And I would love, if we have some time, I can share one or two practices that dissolve the intellect and let us experience ourselves as a rising experience.
I am totally down. And before we do that, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about this. So
Yeah.
for those of us that this may be new to, we can slow some of that down. And I just want to encourage you that, and Jody, you did a great job of kind of setting us up for this. All these words aren't the important part. Like it is great to know the lineage of where this comes from and acknowledge our lineage and the landholders and shepherds who've gotten us here. And the practice is where it's at, right? Being present and actually practicing this in your life. So no matter what practice you have, that's why we ask different people here on the show, like, what is your practice? Because maybe there's different things you want to take from this practice and actually apply and work with or research more. And if you're like, wow, I'm not really sure everything she said, you can listen again or ask her after this, or ask us right now in the comments, and let us know what's landing. Like, wow, I've never heard, for instance, I'd love to share, I've never heard anyone really use Tantra and business together. So we're already like maybe breaking some boundaries of how you all hopefully already living outside the confines of your mind. And we're talking about how to make more money doing it. So Jody, define Tantra for you. Cause I know some of us, I don't know, I was raised in the, 80s and I hear sex when I think of that, like, oh yeah, we're going to go be together, or like, or now as a, yogi, I understand there's two souls connecting right inside of that. But how might you define Tantra for those of us who are new to this concept or have preconceived notions?
It's such a beautiful question. So Tantra, of course, is one of the practices, is the arising of the sexual feeling before, at the beginning of that experience, and the peak of it, and then the after experience. That is a actual tantric practice. But there's so many other types of arising. And in fact, all of life is the arising of experience, the knowledge of it, and then the acting of it. It's all very sensual and sensory. And so yogis, what we do is we play with the arising. It's called ichi, the arising of experience. And then there's the knowledge of it. Oh, I have to scratch my ear. And then there's the action, which is kriya. So what would it feel like to feel the spark of a arising, of a longing, and the knowledge of it, but not act on it? Or what would it feel to feel the arising and not even allow it to go to the knowledge of what that is? It's just the spark of life out of nothing. That's Tantra. Tantra is that kind of subtle, very subtle, sensory, sensual experience in the moment, the arising of life, the spark of life. And at every second, there's the arising, the awareness, and then the death of that moment. The arising, maybe the awareness, and then the death of that next moment. And so what I love about the practice of this is that we can then walk into an experience out of the intellect and feel all of the five senses sparking, all of our self out of thinking into feeling, into ourself in the room, and fall in love. Like there's nothing else to do but be present with the humanity in the room. And then you get into your intellect, then you get into your work. But there's a play then between a quiet mind and feeling, which is Tantra, the arising experience, and then the play in the intellect, which right now really runs the show. So how do we quiet it and let it be a tool as opposed to take over everything? So that's
I love that. How I have applied it, and we practice this a lot in our dude circles, and every meditation is reminding humans and men, especially, that we have 3 brains, the head, the heart, and the gut. And we study this so much in our society and put this on and grade it and judge it and like score it, but we don't like have many ways to audit or practice or develop this. I mean, actually we have endless ways, but we don't, it's not accessible or we don't see it right here in our Western society. And being someone who's a yogi and has integrated wellness and business, and I used to think, oh, who am I? I have nothing to offer the world of business. Come to learn, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. And these are all like, and even the magician is part of walking those worlds. But without going too deep in that, let's say, okay, so you've given us such a beautiful definition of Tantra. I love the rising, the awareness, the death. Om, for those of you that don't know, has that same sound, the beginning, the middle, and end, and the silence before and after. So we have an understanding of this. This is like Yogi 101 here. Now, how might we apply this to business?
So,
or how do you apply this to business or entrepreneur? Or how does it integrate for you? What's the connect?
For me, it integrates in the first thing that comes to mind is a frog, a little cute, adorable green frog sitting in a little pond, loving life, right? And so when I think about business, I want to make sure that little frog in that little pond and the tadpoles that are swimming nearby are as protected as my own family. And so when capital moves in a way that has sanctity and protection and preciousness for life, for living systems, then I call that sattvic. I call that the right kind of capital being used in the right way with the right depth and clarity of its impact. When capital moves for profits without concern for that sweet little beautiful red, green, blue frog, I don't describe that as an investment. There's another word, it might be extractive capital or something. And so what I want to inspire anyone in business to do is to dive deeper, dive as deep as you can go with capital in the supply chain of your investment, in what's being impacted by the use of that capital. I'd rather not invest in something, even though I'm going to make a profit, if I know that I've harmed a frog. And so let me give you a wonderful example of that. My friends at Garn, which is a nonprofit that it's the rights of nature movement. They're a bunch of lawyers, and they go into courts of law on behalf of frogs and gazelles and monkeys, and they fight on behalf of species. And so there's a particular lawsuit at a waterfall in the Amazon where a mining company came in, and the waterfall had two long pores, and they destroyed one of those waterfalls. And so they took them to court, and they could show how many species was living in the other waterfall. And actually the frog in that case won that lawsuit, and they stopped the miners from mining.
Wow.
Those kind of lawsuits are taking place all over the planet. Atoso Sultani and the headwaters of the Amazon Coalition, protecting all 30 nations in the headwaters of the Amazon. Again, another movement to protect indigenous life and from miners and oil drilling. And so what I want to inspire anyone listening is that the feminization of capital is a holistic, wholehearted loving of ourselves as nature. So as much as that seems like a frog over there, I'm a frog. I'm every species that ever lived. I am nature too. And so when I harm something else, I'm actually harming myself. And that's my holistic language around capital. When I employ it and it hurts others, it's actually hurting me. And we can see it all over the world. We're suffering. Our soil is suffering. Water aquifers are suffering. So many things are suffering because we don't have the indigenous concept of regeneration, circular systems, and renewal.
Wow. Well, we could end it right there and unpack that over and over. That is like, if you need a single answer for how to save the world, that might be it, as close as we could get today. There's definitely plenty to go back and listen to. So if you are listening, please subscribe here. This is Jody R Weiss speaking about the feminization of capital and how to live outside the confines of your mind. And move into your heart and into solution and heal yourself in the world here. So this is such a beautiful explanation of how to weave together both the practice of Tantra and the spark of getting to be alive with how to use the energy and exchanges of energy we have in today's world, like money, and how to make it even regenerative. So if you go back to the beginning of this, we have we're talking about a movement called I Stand for 10, which is a 10% amount of the world's money allocated to women. And right now it's 3. So that's what Jody's whole thing is about with women funding the world, womenfunders.com. We're at the part of the show here where we're really connecting the two of well-being, thriving, and business. So all can exist. That's what I'm really getting from this. Jody, we're nearing the end here, and I know you have a practice that you wanted to offer us. So I wanted to give you the space to do that because you have so much wisdom to share, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface. So we'll definitely have to have you back. Do you want to take us into that practice? And this would be a great time for it.
Yeah, it seems simple, this practice, but it's actually the most powerful tantric practices of Kashmir Shaivism.
Can you say that again? Kashmir Shaivism?
So the country is Kashmir and Shaivism is Shiva, right? And so it's not of the Hindu tradition. It might seem like it is, but Kashmir Shaivism, it's its own tradition. It's an oral tradition for thousands of years. And then in 600 AD, great yogis like Abhinavagupta and others began to write the tantric texts that you'll find today, like the Shiva Sutras or the Tantra Lokas. And you can learn more about this tradition at lja.yoga. But what what one of the practices, or what I would say the most effective practice to quiet a negative spinning mind, or a stressed spinning mind, or just to get out of the intellect during the middle of the day and just sit in presence, is very simple. So if you would just like sit on your chair and just close your eyes for a second and just follow me, I'll take you through this. And it's basically the observer mind on your breath. And so if you close your eyes, just move inside into your very familiar territory. You've been here many times, and just put your awareness on the movement of your breath. You're going to follow it as it goes up and down without any control on it. Just watch your breath. Even that exercise quiets the mind down. And as you do this, I just want you to bring your awareness to the bottom turn of your breath. So your breath will go up and down, but at the bottom, just don't pause, just observe that turn. Already your heartbeat is slowing down, your nervous system, your thinking. This is home base. This is a resting point. You're following your breath, and at the bottom, just observe the turn. I want to inspire you to do this practice during the day, when you're between meetings, when you're sitting in your office, when you're standing in a bank line. Anytime you feel anxiety or too much thought spinning in your head, just use this as a home-based tool. This is a resting place, a point of calm. So I'm going to gently take you out of this practice now, so that Ben can wrap up our conversation. But this is really a potent practice, and I want to inspire you to play and experiment with it. Gently let your breath go now. Just come back into the room and wiggle your toes and feet a little. And when you're ready, you can just open your eyes.
Wow. That was lovely. It's one of the simplest, most effective practices I've done in a long time. I also wanted to acknowledge, like, halfway through that, you were like, your heart rate's slowing down. I was like, wow, mine's really starting to speed up right now. I was like, oh yeah, I'm noticing I'm on camera. That's my adrenaline. Okay, let me just come back to the practice. And then suddenly it was like, whoom. And I felt it all settle. It took me
Sweet.
a little bit longer, I feel like, but it was there. So, I want to just thank you and encourage us. Like, if it's not working right away, it's called a practice, right? Not a meditation. Perfect. So we get to practice and maybe allow ourselves to be surprised and even notice, like, it's not working, but consider that you practicing that, like, you just put money in your own bank for the rest of your life. You just did some healing that your body will never forget. Even if you go binge all night, like, you did something really good for your mind and soul and spirit. And you listened to a beautiful woman with a lot of wisdom guide us. So thank you, Jody. That was really calming and such a gift here. And go back and listen again if you like it, or reach out to Jody. Jody, is there? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to share that Dr. David Schwartz, who's a neuroscientist, and I actually have a podcast called Exploring Reality Maybe, where
Hmm.
we're interviewing neuroscientists and quantum physicists and biologists and plant medicine experts, psychedelic experts, shamans, tantras, on what the mind, intellect, and ego might be, what reality might be, and how to play with perception, identity, and the ego using some of these meditative practices. So if your listeners would like to join us, you can go onto Apple or Spotify or Amazon and look for Exploring Reality Maybe, and come join us with some of these practices. So,
Ooh, that sounds great. I am definitely going to start listening to that for sure. That sounds great. I will drop a link here for that for anyone who would like to listen. Oh, it's great. Y'all did such a good job. Exploringrealitymaybe.org.
and Ben,
Nice
we
and
have to
simple.
have you on our podcast, so that's a given.
I would be honored. I would be honored. I've done a lot of exploring the last 10 years. And that was actually a gift of sobriety for me, was getting to
Mm,
reconnect with nature and even plant medicine and ancient wisdom. You and I spoke briefly before this about AI, as our dear friend David Fulton says, the ancient intelligence,
love
right? So
that.
what if some of the stuff we're all terrified of is actually just like ancient wisdom being given back to us? And that we could be here for the ride, because like the wave's coming and we either get to surf it or just, not, so I
Mm.
really thank you for flowing with me today, Jody. It's been such a gift to spend just a little time inside of your world and sharing it with us, giving it away so freely.
It's just been an honor, man. It's been so great. I just love all you guys. I love the work you're doing, and we all need to commit to our wellness and wholeness. So it's a
Yeah.
privilege to be here.
Thank you. Thank you again. And don't forget to subscribe. We have a few more questions for Jody, so don't go. And if you have one, this is your chance to ask it. Put it in the comments and I'll make sure she sees it. Jody, uh, what do you have a morning routine or self-care practice that you do? And if
I
so, what is it?
Oh yeah, I love that question. I do. When I wake up, I first connect to the arising of experience because I practice that, the first moments of awareness. And do I want to act? Do I have the knowledge of what I see? And then how do I want to act on it? I then go and freshen up, go to the restroom, come back, and I'll meditate. I'll meditate for 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes on the turn of the breath.
Mm,
That is my practice because nothing else quiets the mind faster than ekagrata, one pointedness of mind, and my focus is on that turn. It's like a bowing to that point. It's like a reverie to the space in between things. I'll then do stretching and yoga of some kind, yoga asanas. And I recently got into journaling thanks to some of our friends. So I've added that. And then I have a practice of more like a Joe Dispenza practice of imagining my day and imagining the future I want to live. And then thinking about a few friends or colleagues who are challenged. I will do some about 10 minutes of mantric work that I've been given, mantras, and then I'll go and work out on some days, not all days. And then I start my day with some kind of protein, and I'm off to the races. So that's
wow.
generally my practice.
Wow, that's extraordinary. I'm seeing some upgrades for myself already in there. I'm like, wow. So if Jody can do it, so can you. If, this is awesome. Jody, how long does that take you? Or how long do you allow for that, I shall say?
Well, the yoga part takes me an hour, about an hour, and
Hmm.
then the workout part takes me 30 to 45 minutes. So it's a 2 hour kind of a day. I'll shower really quickly.
Hmm.
I get up at 7, I'm at work by 9, or I get up at 6, it depends on the day.
Hmm.
And it's a couple of hours.
That's great. I love to ask that because I have the same. It's like a couple hours, and people are think that's insane. Like, how do you find the time? But we put it here because you get to say how you live and train others how to treat you and what they expect from you. And you can start newly today, carving your time out, maybe getting up earlier if you need to, and witnessing the miracle that happens. And if you don't want to have 2 hours, and you don't even have a morning practice, maybe start with 5 minutes. You can just start with being with the rising. So that's great. That's cool. I got an upgrade from hearing yours. That's really neat. And I heard some of the miracle morning and the savers, the scribing and awareness, visualization, movement. I'm forgetting all of
Nutrition, good nutrition.
Yes, there you go. All of those things. Do you have any hidden talents or ones that we might not know of, just having spent this time with you?
Well, I'm a writer, a poet, and I'm a painter and a sculptor. And if I wasn't a social activist, which I've been my adult life, I would be a full-on artist. I won an art scholarship, and I'm a sculptor, a clay sculptor, and an illustrator. So I do it on the side. I do life drawing, and illustrated a game which has never launched, but it's there. If you go on to 118 Worlds on Instagram, you'll see some of my drawings with ink during COVID-19. Not many, but there's some conversations around consciousness with each drawing. So yeah, I'm an artist.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And if you could, are there any books or podcasts or anything you're listening or consuming right now that you're just like, man, I want everyone to hear or read this? Anything you'd recommend?
Oh my gosh, I've been listening to Clarissa Pinkolas Estes with this audio on she calls it giantess, how to be a female giant, a giantess. It's an audio on being a crone, and the crone actually she describes as the crown. It's a halo around our whole body. And what does it mean to be in feminine leadership, truly big and outrageous in ourself, and not quieting our voice and things like that. I'm so blown away by this audio. And it's a great audio for guys. It's a really great audio for guys, because when we all live out loud and not worry what people think about us, and that our feet are too big or our hands are too big or our hair's too wild, it's blows the boxes out. And so I've been just digging. I've listened to her for many years, and this was a older recording, and I just happened to dive into it, and I'm in love with it. So
beautiful. I'll share that with Cassie as well, who says to be sure and say hi to you.
Hi, Cassie.
She's like, I love Jody, tell her I said hi. And then my final question is, if you could give the world one gift today, what would you give us?
Oh, such a beautiful gift. That might be my favorite gift question. I think compassion is my gift. And the reason is I feel like we're all on our journey to consciousness, and every listener out there has things that they know that I don't see yet. And I may have some things that I have more clarity on that maybe you don't see yet, or they don't see yet. And the only way we can grow together as a humanity is with the soothing balm of compassion, to meet each other in that sort of gray unknown, and that the bumpiness, the clumsiness, the didn't mean to-ness of learning, and allow us to bloom together, to go, oh, I didn't see that, I didn't know, I'm learning. And that love, that tenderness, that compassion is what I would want to give the world. I call it the balm of compassion.
And that ding was the affirming bell of humanity, like right on point. I love that. The balm of compassion. I saw that in your notes. I was like, huh, I wonder what that is. Because I know like some people rub oil on their feet every morning. And I was like, I wonder what balm she'll have. And that's beautiful. If you've not really gotten into that word balm, I encourage you to do that as well. I had the gift of, well, my mother was a French teacher. This is a 30-second story. My father went to Haiti, and between the two of them, they did work to get the Haitian Boys Choir sponsored and touring America. And there were boys and men ages 10 to 20 who had never had left their country or city and shared this music with the world. And oh my God, as a child, I wept. And they got to stay in our home. I spoke a little French. We played soccer together. And
So
the
good.
song, yeah, for a kid in Tennessee, it was like no better education in the world. And the song that I stuck with me was Balm in Gilead. There is a balm in Gilead. And just to think of the healing that's possible in balm, and that you've given us this gift today of compassion. You are compassion. And even in, this political world and hostile things, we feel like all this stuff is made up. And compassion and curiosity are the exact things. I believe curiosity is a link to compassion. Like if you don't have compassion for anyone or anything, maybe start to get curious about what they're dealing with, and you pointed to that. So thank you for reminding me of that. Like even in our immediate relationships, how quickly we can let go of compassion and hurt the ones we love, including ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So a call to compassion for ourselves here today too. Jody, you're such a gift to the world. I can't wait for more people to hear about this. Anything that you didn't get to say that you'd like to before we sign off?
Oh my, I just love that you guys are like just stepping into healing and wellness. And I just love this work. And I believe raising boys to be great men like all of you is the balm, is the wisdom that we need. We need the wise, beautiful man to step forward in the world. And I'm so grateful that you're all here with Ben learning and contributing. So it's been a real joy just to be here with you all.
Well, thank you. And we have, if not equal, almost more female listeners too. So they're all here with us together. This is the future, So
Amazing.
thank you for being with it. We had such great response and viewership and comments today. Don't forget to just write one thing you're taking away. I can see you all watching us. So write one thing you're taking away from today. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you want more from Jody, please go to womenfundingtheworld.com. I'm going to be at this New York event, if not this one, the next. Mark your calendars. And Jody, thank you for being the change needed in the world today. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you.